Hi and welcome. I'm Jessica Corman. I'm here to take you through some exercises that can help with back pain and hip pain and get you working on your core and your glutes. This next exercise is called heel slides. I tell most of my clients this is kindergarten abs. As long as you have worked on some of the foundations of activating your abdominals, then you are ready for heel slides. You do need a little bit of equipment change, if you will, because you need your legs to be really free and slidey. So I have a mat that is nice and slick with some sliders, which is a really good option. Sliders should work on any carpeted surface if you wanted to use sliders at home. The other thing that actually is really simple is usually just using socks on a hardwood floor or on a tiled floor of some kind. So you do need that set up ready because the feet need to be really slidey. Then you'll go ahead and get into position. If you're me, you find how when your leg is straight, your foot will still live on your slider. And then we're going to get back into our abdominal breathing. And the idea as we start to move through any of these exercises is that the core fires first and ends last. So these are core first exercises, which is ideally how we move through the world all the time. But what that means in the context of this exercise is that anytime you're moving, we want to feel the core actively coming in. So no poofing out and no freezing of the abdominals. So what it looks like, inhale to lengthen. Exhale to get that shortening and turning on. As you're shortening. When you're in this position, it's appropriate usually to take a little new breath. So I'm going to relax my leg fully, relax my abdomen, and then start again. And then rest. So some things that you might hopefully have noticed is that my abdomen was coming in the whole time I was moving. Sometimes what happens is our abdomen starts to push out, or I call it the Hulk. So I'm going to demonstrate a little bit of what the Hulk looks like, which sort of means you're almost trying a little too hard with your breath. And it's a really common mistake that makes it so that you're not getting that really nice abdominal contraction. So it looks like maybe it's coming in, and then as you start to move, so my belly came out. That is not what we're looking for, because moving outward is a lengthening phase. So we want to start over and get the coming in. As soon as we feel it coming in, it's time to slide. Rest the leg and come back up with the exhale. Now, as you get better at this exercise, you can move a little bit more quickly. So that might look like now I've completed one rep with one breath. And again, you can alternate sides. If you are my client, I can give you an exact prescription of how many I want you to do. I'm gonna go ahead and show you a slightly more advanced form too, which is going to be not really facilitating completely with the breath. So we're gonna move just a little bit more fluidly, and looks like and then again, I rest and take that breath to release. The last thing about heel slides is that essentially if we're looking at, usually there's grades of exercise from 1 to 5. Today I'm demonstrating 1 to 3. This is actually 0.5. So this is abs at half. That's why I call them kindergarten abs. As I'm showing you all these exercises, they are very precise and they are very persnickety, and I am aware of that. If you are having trouble with these, you might need to see a PT. As you move through them, you might find like that was really easy. I hardly had to use my breath to do that. And that might mean your abdominals are actually in balance for that movement with your hips. As we progress, hopefully you might be able to find places in which you start to feel yourself make some compensations and you're not feeling your belly work. That might look like pain, it might look like back arching, it might look like clenching somewhere in your tissues. It's not easy to predict, but what generally happens is that people will stop feeling their abdominals work and or you'll stop feeling them coming in. So most of the time when you switch to a compensatory strategy, we tend to see the Hulk. Thanks for doing heel slides with me. I'm Jessica Gorman. Next exercise is called abs level 1A. I guess I'll go ahead and say you might notice that I'm breaking down a lot this very beginning stage of abs, and that is because it can be really hard to get your abs to function at these low levels. So we had phase 1/2, now we're in phase 1, but we have part A, and then we will have part B. I'm actually also going to show a modification to part A in case it is too challenging. There's a lot of little half steps that happen here. So this is where, if you can monitor it yourself, awesome. If you find that you are getting pain with any of these exercises, that is not correct. There should never be pain in any of these exercises. If so, that usually means that either you're not ready for it or you're not doing it right. Again, you're gonna be on your back in your constructive rest position. Now it is not appropriate to let your legs come together because we need to be in neutral because we are going to start to lift each leg. So we get into our abdominal breathing. Making sure when we exhale to include the pelvic floor. Sometimes it's nice to do a little warm up, so I'm getting my abs ready. On the next one, I'll start to lift a leg. Once here, I can take a quick breath to lower back down. The abs are coming in the entire time that I am moving my leg. So again, we're working with that core first strategy. I want my abs to be the first to the party and the last to leave. So I'm going to show that again. They're coming in. My abdominals take the weight of my leg. Take a quick breath. Exhale again. They stay engaged until my leg is rested again. So what it might look like if you're actually doing some repetitions is if that initial lift phase is too challenging, that's why I left myself some sliders. Or if you had done heel slides and you used socks, that can be really helpful. So now I kind of engage my sliders a little bit. And what I can do, because that lift moment can be really hard, think of it like lifting a grocery bag way out here instead of bringing it towards your core. So we're gonna slide the leg closer to create a shorter lever if you wanna get kind of physicsy with it. So that looks like and in fact, you could even get your slider more on your toe. And now that moment of transfer is very small. So that can sometimes stop the hulking. So I'll just demonstrate really quickly what hulking might look like, which really starts to make itself known usually in this phase. So that might look like, so my belly came out. Is that obvious? We really want the belly to always come in when we're moving that leg. So you should start to feel like my abs are holding the weight of this leg. The other common thing that can happen in this exercise is that we start to see an overactivity of hip flexors. So what that looks like usually, not always, but usually, is some amount of the back arches in order to hold the weight of the leg. So the back should never change position. Wherever you start is where you stay through the entirety of the exercise. So if you're getting any, I lift my leg, usually we do see a little poof. My back has now left the table and I am no longer stabilizing using my abdominals. It's really important to stabilize using your abdominals so that we keep the spine, which should be like a rigid rod in our bodies, from doing all of the work and movement. We have these humongous big hip joints with all of these big muscles. So we want to see that the spine stays stable and our hip joint is the only place where we're moving to stop getting strain in the low back. If you are someone who's having some trouble feeling like you're working really hard in the front of the hip joint, that's super normal. There is a hip flexor that lives out here and it really likes to help, and when it does, it tends to pull our pelvis to the side. We really want to try and focus on using a really midline hip flexor muscle called psoas, and psoas can only work effectively when the abdominals are engaged. So sometimes it's helpful to also think as you're engaging and you're starting to lift, that you actually lift from the inside of your thigh. A couple ways in which this exercise can go wrong include spinal mobility. The whole point of doing core exercises is to keep your spine stable and strong. When we start to do stability exercises, which is what all of these are, we should only see movement at the hip joint. We shouldn't see a lot of movement in the spine. Movement in the spine looks like this usually in this position. So now my back has left the table, and you might appreciate that my abs didn't come in at all. Correct visualization would be so my abs came in and my back stayed really stable. It didn't necessarily flatten, it just didn't change. The other thing that tends to happen is people have a lot of overactivity in our hip flexor muscles here, and we really want to try and draw attention more into psoas as a hip flexor, but psoas can only function as a hip flexor with spinal stability being intact. So we activate and then draw up, thinking about moving from that inside of the thigh. This point in exercise starts to shift where we are no longer going to be taking complete rest between breaths. So what that means is that the level of abdominal strength required means that there needs to be some level of endurance present for the core such that you can breathe on top of it. If you've been following along with the previous exercises, those are all facilitated completely through exhalation, and then during rest, we are inhaling and taking a break. As we move forward with these exercises, there's going to be less rest, so these exercises start to become a little bit more endurance heavy, and we need to then learn how to hold an abdominal contraction while breathing on top of it. If you were here for the abdominal breathing, I demonstrated a little bit of a chest breath, and once we move into active core breath, you actually need to use a chest breath to maintain a core contraction down in your abdomen, but get some air in. So we are going to be kind of engaging in like chest breathing, but it's also keeping the core engaged while breathing, which is necessary for any kind of aerobic activity. So we're starting to kind of increase our level of challenge here. So I'm gonna demonstrate it lying down in 2 different positions. So, we can start in our constructive rest, engaging with the belly breath. And I'm just gonna show it first in this constructive rest position, though because constructive rest is restful, I don't need to be doing an active core breath in that position, but sometimes it's a helpful place to start just so you can get the coordination without a lot of work. So it looks like inhale and lengthen, exhale to contract, getting that pelvic floor piece in. And then I'm gonna maintain while I take a little chest breath. And then I can exhale, maybe get a little deeper into my core, but I haven't released. I'm gonna breathe again. And exhale, and I can go a little deeper. So now I'm working a little bit more on endurance. Inhale, exhale, and I am feeling a lot of work here as I maintain this while taking my sips of oxygen in my chest breath. And then when I'm ready to release, I actually let my belly go, and you should be able to see a little bit of release there. Now, if we want to actually move into a position where active core breath is necessary, you need to actually be able to do level 1A exercises. So we're actually gonna come into what is often called a 90-90 position. I like to actually call it a 90-45 position. So when we bring our legs up using our core, one leg up, bring the second leg up. It's technically level 1B, but in this position is where we are going to see the necessity of active core breath. So in order to maintain this position, I am working quite hard in my core. So I need to take a chest breath. And then I keep going deeper. And you might even notice that I get a little shiver, which is great. Meaning my core is going, oh, Jessica is working. We need to be on board. We need to be here and prepared, okay? So again, level 1B will be using this active core breath. If you want to practice it like that, you can, though I would recommend practicing it probably in the hook lying position first, and then we will move into using that style of breath as we do level 1B.